This guy had already been banned for 2 games. He already had a dangerous contact charge against him where he'd had a 2-game ban. Presumably, the decision was made too late to influence the squad for this game, because I think that might have come out on Thursday. So God knows what ban he's looking at now. Absolutely inexplicable. Completely stupid, unnecessary, unprompted, ridiculous thing to do that ultimately did, I think, cause us to lose the game. Now, it's not often you say that about individual actions, but to me, we were 10-6 up at the time, actually in control of the game. We'd started to actually be the better side, even though actually Sheffield were very quick from the play of the ball and were taking advantage of the speed of the surface, and they're nowhere near as bad as certainly you thought, and probably, to be fair, we all thought. I had them pinned for the bottom 4, and so far that they're a lot better than that. And I don't want to denigrate their effort, because they deserve to win the game. But ultimately, James Green shot us all in the foot, quite frankly. And if I never see that guy in a Bradford shirt again, I'm quite happy, because that kind of stuff is not what I want to see on my field. So I think that's all I've got to say on the matter.
I think the longest back memories I've got of James Green were in fighting with Travis Burns. And I think he's always been a bit of a shithouse ever since. And that... I mean, it was real violent and dangerous play. That's flinging an elbow round a player's face.
Completely unprompted as well.
Provocation as well. In truth be told.
Yeah, I mean, basically,
Blackmore was outplayed. It was the only Sheffield player I thought that was actually posing a real threat to you guys at the time. Because everyone else on Sheffield side seemed to be really content with dropping the ball.
Yeah.
Like, hugely happy to just drop the ball and waste every opportunity they had, because that was what Sheffield were doing for so much of the game, and for a while of the game after, before they realised that if they just were a little bit more patient, they would win this game, and ultimately they did that. Yeah,
eventually they realised, as you said, that a bit of patience and just keeping the speed up at the play of the ball would ultimately catch us out, and it did. Because we're still early in the season, players are still kind of building fitness, and I think ultimately, you just get tired and you get frustrated. And to be fair, their frustration should be directed at the guy who was already in the sheds, not at anything that the referee was doing. The referee wasn't brilliant.
No, I thought there was a lot of things that I really didn't understand what the call that was being made was, so I'm bored on that. But like Tim said, the floodlights weren't great. Maybe the match officials couldn't quite see everything very, very well. And ultimately, Jordan Lilly should know better than to mouth off.
Yeah. No, right. Completely. What is it they say? It's the loss that you needed to have. But yeah, I mean, we can't sugarcoat it. Ultimately, James Green did a very stupid thing, and ultimately the team got punished for it. So we deserve to lose, and onwards and upwards.
Yeah, on to Saturday's games then. Toulouse 42, Rochdale 12, and then on Sky Sports we saw Toronto eventually put Widnes to the sword, 30 points to 6, and we had plenty of people get in touch on this one as well.
We did, yeah. So Carsten says Wakefield versus Canberra and Newcastle, New South Wales. What a fixture a day before the World Club Challenge. Joking aside, Toronto was just a class above Widnes. If the Wolfpack played like this every game, it would be a very boring season in the Championship.
Paul Chamberlain said, I've forgotten what a bunch of grubby fuckers the Wolfpack are. Wilkin, McCrone and Sims for starters, and massive of wanky hipster facial hair everywhere. Not a lot to say other than the Wolfpack were too good and efficient without particularly cutting loose. Latelli looks magnificent when he opens his legs, and I really enjoyed the ex-player baiting from the Widnes fans. Shame to see Ashall Bott injured.
Yes, it is. I hope that's not too serious.
I talked about this kid after the first week of the season. I think me and Gareth Sunley had a bit of an exchange as well over on Facebook Messenger, that just worry for the size of him, and it came to pass. Really, he kind of just got a bit twisted up just because he didn't have the power in the contact a little bit. It's a real shame because he's so talented, but I'm sure he'll bounce back.
Yeah, hopefully so. Mark Butler says, a game that was as appealing as a cup of cold sick for the most part. Toronto, as usual, leave you wondering what the fuss is about, as they're basically the rugby league equivalent of a kid who farts in class and blames it on you. But Widnes were determined to play Toronto's game, minus most of the toughness, and every time they veered away from that, something went wrong. Me no like.
Genghis Camel said, much easier than expected. Our forwards dominated, and Wilkin apparently can kick a ball, as shown by the first try. Yeah, it was wicked. Like the way it fell out of the sky for Ryan Ince to get nowhere near it after he'd done so well before that. Yes. Anyway, Genghis goes on to say, lots of effective and pretty passing and meters on contact. This and composure to spare makes me optimistic for the rest of the season. Highlight was the line break by Lussick, then a Wilkin-Ackers combination for the second try. All this and Argyle promising more signings.
Yeah, everybody you can possibly imagine. St David says, good quality game. Toronto stronger and smarter in the second half. Ref was pretty good. Nice kits.
Paul O'Brien, finally, will finish with a Widnes fan. He said, Widnes not good enough in this game, unfortunately. Mistakes cost us against a good Toronto team. Still happy with 4 points out of 3 games. Roll on Sheffield next week. Yeah, that's a fair point Paul makes. Widnes' start to the season was Halifax at home, which is no easy game, or certainly it wouldn't have been on paper, but they made it look easy. To lose away, which was a phenomenal result for them, and then Toronto sort of away.
Yes, neutral. Yeah.
Yeah. And so Widnes fans probably should be happy with the start, but this game did show something, didn't it? It showed that there's a team out there with more intensity.
Yeah, I mean, I've got to say, I think the first half was, the fact that the only try came from a mistake from a kick, which was a good kick, but ultimately it was a fluffed defensive catch really that led to the only try of the first half. That kind of told you a lot about how actually even it was in the first half, and it's easy to forget that when you look at the final score. But at half time there was only that one score between them. Yeah, I mean, it is slightly worrying for the rest of the division that Toronto are clearly the class of the league. But yeah, I guess you'd expect that.
It's kind of a situation for Widnes, wasn't it, where there was going to come a point where they were going to play this Toronto team, and this Toronto team would probably have enough experience and class to kind of leave those young guys wanting a little bit. And what you found was physically the young guys maybe weren't quite there in this game. Some of them young forwards that they've been playing weren't quite up to it. The Chapel House seemed to, good Chapel House was coming back from injury, so he didn't look very fit. And so, yeah, there was an element of that I found Widnes were always going to struggle in this. So you got to give credit to Toronto in that second half when they ripped out. And Genghis points to that try, the Ackers' first try.
Yeah.
Toronto's second try. Absolutely brilliant play. One of the tries of the weekend, I thought.
Yeah, and obviously at the end of the day, Widnes can win all the games. Toronto can win all the games they want at this time of year, but ultimately they're going to have to win a one-off game, aren't they? So. It might be that this loss will actually hold Widnes in good stead if they do actually get to that, winner takes all occasion later on in the year.
Of course, yeah. Okay, the other games then we'll whip through. Dewsbury 38, Swinton 24, Halifax 20, Batley 18. So impressive performance there by Batley, but they couldn't quite make it happen. York 56, Barrow 0. Maybe the Barrow that we were sort of expecting has showed up a little bit there on the road. We'll see if they can bounce back when they get some home games. And then Lee 29, Featherstone 20. The dual reg off as it was. A little bit controversial as well, because Lee have brought in some Super League halfbacks on season-long loans and have decided not to play them in favour of playing maybe for 1 or 2 games a lad from the dual reg link up instead. Seems a bit strange. I'm not particularly chuffed with it as a Wigan fan when Josh Woods was meant to be going out there to get game time, and I'm sure Huddersfield fans feel the same way about Ollie Russell. They could probably do with Ollie Russell in their side, if anything. If he's not going to play at Lee, he would be playing ahead of Isaac Farrell, even though he's done okay. But Lee, good start to the season for them, despite the dual reg chat.
Yeah, definitely.
And in the terms of the standings, Toronto sit top on points difference from Sheffield, both of 3 from 3. Very surprised by Sheffield's start, but credit to them. York lead the 2 win sides on points difference, with Widnes, Leigh, Bradford, Halifax behind them. Featherstone, Dewsbury, Toulouse and Barrow have 1 win each. Batley, Rochdale and Swinton are all yet to get off the mark. Into League One, where it was round 1, although not a large slate of fixtures with the way that this 11-team competition is gonna go, but we started with a our league app game. Newcastle 26, Doncaster 32, and we had a couple of fan reviews in.
Yeah, you got to say that's a surprising result. Carsten says Newcastle with a good start, but their shocking goal line defence proved too costly. Great win by the Dons, but the sin bin was just stupid. How can they call this a professional foul?
I didn't get to see this game.
I didn't see it. Sorry, Carsten.
No. Paul Chamberlain said, There goes a bubble burst. It was hard to tell if the first half was due to an improved Thunder or a decent Donny side falling off last year's standards. A 28-0 second half answered that. While Thunder looked good in attack, especially Aguru and Marginet, they couldn't defend any time Doncaster had a sniff. In particular, Finn looked a grandad, Tarley looked a beast for Donny, and another biting incident on review. Well, I'm sure the match review panel, when they convene on Thursday for the Championship and League One games, will have a look at that.
Yeah, and finally on this one, Share England says, great coverage of the game that saw my team Doncaster make an awesome second half comeback and claim our first win. Love the R-League app. There you go.
Yeah, some love for the R-League app all weekend, I think. As long as we can get the consistency of the quality of this coverage up, then the next step will be to try and get someone else putting it on a platform out there somewhere that non-rugby league fans might come across, and then then it's all done, isn't it? Then.
Yep. So the next game we've got is Coventry 28, West Wales 4. So Tim G got in touch with this one, as you'd expect, has been there on the time. Scrappy. Indeed. Scrappy game with some errors showing the rust on both teams. West Wales more physical than last year, although whoever the character on the touchline dressed as a nightclub doorman needs a talking to. Sounds interesting. Stood halfway down the pitch, effing and jeffing when there are loads of kids around. What a twonk. Hayden Freeman nearly completed a hat-trick with a flying move, but wasn't to be. We're top of the league. Come on, you Bears.
Yeah, and a result that was maybe similarly surprising to the Doncaster result was Workington travelling away to Oldham and winning 32 points to 28. That's probably the top 4 sides, isn't it, in what's expected to play out this season. But probably both those away wins weren't quite expected in round 1, so really interesting start there. And Whitehaven, they won against Keighley 28 points to 16. That means, one game in, but let's do the standings, because the Coventry Bears sit top of League One. I mean, yeah, it's been 1 game and 3 teams haven't even played yet, but Coventry lead from Whitehaven, Doncaster and Workington, with everyone else yet to get off the mark. Excellent stuff. We also had the Indigenous All-Stars games this weekend. We talked a little bit about them at the top of the show. We'll just bring you the results here. In the male All-Stars game, it finished 34 points to 14 to the Indigenous All-Stars. Kind of a lot of swapping around the players there, but it was the right wing for the Indigenous All-Stars that did most of the damage. And then in the Women's All-Stars game, the Indigenous Women's All-Stars 4, Maori Women's All-Stars 8, with a very late winner in that game. So passionate, intense game that one was. We got a couple of reviews in on another game that happened this weekend. Do you want to take us through both of those, Alan?
Yeah, so this was the Hull FC reserves against the Wakey reserves. So Tom Andrews says about this one, nice to see Dullars fielding a has-been and keeping a prospect on the bench. Long-term planning at its finest. Can't wait to see him try a line up against Wigan next week and feel the wrath of the golden edge. Honestly, this team are the gift that keeps on giving since June. And then lots of smiley laugh faces. And then looking at it from the different perspective, Joshua's granddad says, a game in the league all clubs should be playing in. So a game in the league all clubs should be playing in. So an FC starting pack containing P. Lytton, Levy, Lane Ellis looked better than the first team managed for much of last season. A good crowd saw Ellis displaying the leadership associated with a double Challenge Cup winner. Gary took his hat-trick well and defence restricted Trin to 2 long-range efforts from a fleet-footed winger. There you go.